Hey there, and welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast, the show that's all about helping photographers just like you build a thriving business without sacrificing your sanity. I'm your host, Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned full-time photographer and marketing coach, here to fill your earbuds each week with practical tips, real-life stories, and a whole lot of encouragement. So if you're ready to dive in, let's get to it because this girl means business. Hey, friend, and welcome back to the Girl Means Business podcast. Today's episode has got some really exciting things that we're talking about because we're looking at creative ways to build your brand in 2026. These are not just generic marketing tips that I want to share with you. They are actually relationship builders that are going to help you create a brand that people are excited about. Not just that people book, but that people want to talk about, people want to share with their friends, people want to be involved with beyond just this is a photo shoot that I'm going to do and that's it. So we're going to talk about a couple of different ways that we can build that momentum around your brand going forward into this year. So let's get to it. One of the things that I love doing is a thing called social listening. So this means that I utilize social media in a very strategic way. And that is, I use it as a platform to find topics that people are asking questions about. So for example, I am in specific Facebook groups and I follow specific accounts on social media like Instagram and things like that in order to see what other photographers are talking about. What questions are they asking? What are the pain points that they're struggling with? What are the things that they are dealing with that they maybe have questions around that aren't getting answered in whatever it is that they're utilizing for resources? And I use that content to help drive the content I create here on the podcast, on my YouTube channel, in my emails. That is where I have this never ending well of ideas because it comes from the actual people who are my audience. And so I encourage you to do the same thing. So that is kind of strategy number one for going into 2026 is to really utilize this idea of social listening, paying attention to what is going on in the communities around you. So if you are a family photographer in your space, joining these moms groups, which I know can be a pain, don't get me wrong, I know they can be, but joining these local Facebook groups and just paying attention to what are the questions moms are asking. For example, if you're in one of the moms groups and you notice a couple of posts where people are asking questions like, hey moms, where are we buying our cute Easter dresses for our girls this year? Then you can go in and create a whole blog post with links to different sites where they can buy really cute, fun, unique Easter dresses. Or if you know that moms are going to be asking questions or you see posts about summer camps coming up in the summer, what are some good summer camps in the area? Create a blog post or a free resource that lists out several of the local places that offer summer camp options. And then you can share that as a resource. By social listening, by listening to what your audience is asking for, you are then able to get inside of their brain and answer the questions or solve the problems that they have. They don't necessarily have to always relate to what it is that you do. But if you serve that audience, if your audience are moms of young children and you know that they are having these questions in your community and you can be a resource for those moms, then you become the go-to person. It is about being part of your local community. It's about immersing yourself in the community around you and being a resource for the families and the clientele in your space. You'll notice that a lot of other companies are utilizing these similar tactics. We just don't always realize that's what they're doing. But the marketing strategy behind it is they are becoming a go-to resource, answering these questions in advance, becoming a solution to these problems. And the best way to do that in 2026 is to utilize this idea of social listening. So that is my number one. That's number one tip for how to kind of diversify and get creative with creating your brand here in 2026. The second thing actually also came from this idea of social listening. I was in a Facebook group for photographers where I saw a photographer talking about how she had started sending personalized video or voice messages to her potential clients. And it got me thinking, I was like, this is actually a genius idea. Because these days, what sets businesses apart is the connection to an actual person. Because if you are looking for a photographer and you email 5 different photographers, you're expecting to get 5 pretty generic responses in return. But if one of those responses is a personalized message in a video or a voice message to you, it's going to stand out and it's immediately going to build this personal connection because they're hearing your voice or seeing your face. And they realize that this was not something you just pre-recorded and sent to everybody because you're inserting personal details. So let me give you an example of how you can utilize this in your inquiry responses. So let's say you get an email from Amy. Amy is the mom of a high school senior girl, and she emails you to inquire about setting up a senior session for her daughter. And in the inquiry, in the email, she mentions that her daughter Emma is a soccer player, that she is also loves to read and collects her favorite books, and that next year she'll be going to school at Baylor to be in the education program. She also mentions a couple of times throughout her email that they're worried that they've waited too late in the year to get senior pictures because it's already almost springtime, but that Emma really wanted to do her pictures when everything was green and flowering and pretty. So after this, you have information you could take from this email, and you could easily send back just a generic email. Hey, I'm so excited to work with you and your daughter Emma. Here are my upcoming dates. Here's my session info, pricing, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. Like that's probably worked well in the past for most clients. But if you really want to build a brand that builds connection and stands out, you could create a quick personalized video and you could say, hey, Amy, I'm Kendra, the owner of Paisley Lane Photography. I am so excited that you reached out about doing a senior session with your daughter, Emma. It is absolutely not too late to book your session. Trust me, you are not alone. A lot of times girls really love the idea of having their senior session done in the springtime. And so I can absolutely accommodate that. I also love that she wants to incorporate her athletic sports and her love of books into her session. I've got some fun creative ideas of ways that we can do that. I am sending you over my session guide along with my pricing and packages. If you have any questions, let me know, but I would love to schedule a time for us to chat so that we can start planning out Emma's dream senior session. So that is the message you could send, and just think of how much more powerful that is. You could easily send all of that same information in a text email, just written out, but having that video where they connect, and there's all this evidence that shows when someone sees a video and sees and hears your voice, it builds a stronger connection. That's why podcasts are so powerful, because you are building these connections with people because you hear their voice. You can hear the way they say things. You're making eye contact if you're doing video. It has a whole different level of connection. And so by creating that personalized video, and it takes 30 seconds, a minute, you don't even have to worry about how you look. Honestly, no one's going to care. You just grab your phone, record a quick video, send it off along with the email, and then it's going to have such a more powerful impact than just an email. And if they have sent that same email to 4 other photographers, yours is going to stand out in such a way that they're like, this is the person I want to work with. They've made the time to really take time to make this feel like it's a personal thing. It's not just another name and number on their checklist. So that's number 2 ideas to help your brand stand out, is create these personal touch moments where they get to actually feel like they're connecting with a person and not just an email address on the other end of their inbox. All right, the third idea I have for you involves creating a repeatable client moment. This is something that can be done before, during, or after a session, but it is something that you are creating that is unique for each client, but that's also repeatable for every client that you do. So let me give you an example of an idea that I've found out firsthand was a cool idea. And I know a lot of photographers have been doing this, so it's not like a new idea, but it was fun being on the other end of it as a client. So over the summer, we traveled to Seattle for our family trip. And while we were there, I decided, now we've kind of done this thing every year where we go on vacation, we hire a photographer and we do our family photos at whatever location we've traveled to that year. So this year I hired a photographer in Seattle. And throughout our session, I noticed she would pull out her phone and take a couple of sort of quick little photos on her phone during the session. And I just assumed this was kind of like for content creation, for, whatever. And then at the end of the session, we were talking and she starts to print out the photos from her phone on a Polaroid printer. Now, I've seen these and I actually found that I had one in my closet from years and years ago. It's pretty cool. So instead of having to use a full-on Polaroid camera, she could use pictures off of her phone. The printer connects to your phone through Bluetooth, and then it prints the photos on little small Polaroid print pages. And so when we left, we had 4 or 5 little Polaroids from our session of moments that she had captured. And some of them were like we were in our poses for the pictures. And some were like of us just like walking as we were going to the next spot. And like one of me and my daughter holding hands as we're walking around and we're looking at each other. It wasn't even like a posed moment. We were just walking between locations and she kind of snapped this photo with her phone and then printed it for us as a Polaroid. And I thought that that was like a really cool idea. And I've seen like wedding photographers doing this on a wedding night where they'll do a couple Polaroid photos and leave them for the bride and groom. Or I've seen, I've heard of family photographers snapping like one family photo with a Polaroid to give them right away. But I thought it was fun the way she did it with just kind of her phone. It was very kind of nonchalant. You didn't realize she was doing it. And then she went through and printed them off for us at the end. And it was a fun little keepsake. Like my girls got one. We have them on our fridge. Like it's a cool moment to keep. And so if you can create something like that, it doesn't have to be that exactly, but something that's like this memorable experience that they're going to want to tell people about. You could do it again before, during, or after a session. So obviously that example is something you would do during a session. If it was something before, maybe it is sending them something in the mail prior to their session. If you're a wedding photographer, then maybe it is something as simple as sending your bride and groom a little care package in the mail. It doesn't have to be anything super crazy or expensive. It could be as simple as a thank you card, letting them know how much you appreciate them, choosing you as your wedding photographer. You could send like maybe a little jewelry dish that they can put their rings in, or the bride can put her engagement ring in when she's washing her hands or washing her face at night. It could be a little gift certificate or some chocolates or something for like a little date night. Anything that's just going to be something that helps them to remember you going the extra step. Let me give you some examples. So that was before. We talked about the Polaroid pictures during. You could also bring like that same idea of the little care package. You could bring that to your session. So if you're a family photographer and you maybe put together like a little bundle of some bubbles and maybe some like little squishy toys for the kids to play with as like little incentives or bribes to get them to be good, or a little stuffed animal that you put in like a little bag. And it could be like their little goodie bag when they're done with their session. If you are doing something after the session, it could be a matter of like sneak peeks, or maybe you send them like one of their favorite photos, just a little 4x6 print in the mail on like a postcard or something. Like there's tons of places that do really nice, like, kind of heirloom prints. They're not super expensive. They're not like wall art, but it's just something that they could have, or you could, send them a little framed gift, or even just a handwritten thank you note goes a long way these days, because nobody sends things like that through the mail anymore. Everything is so digital. So anything that is personalized and sent through the mail or delivered makes a big impact. And again, it doesn't have to be anything over the top, but these small little moments are going to be something that creates awareness around your brand, that creates this feeling of like, oh, she went the extra mile for us. She did something extra special for us. Even if you're doing it for every single client in some version or form, it feels special to them. And think about those moments when you have felt special, you have felt seen, you have felt like this person really thought of me, and how much of an impact that could have if it's coming from a brand that you want them to then talk about with other people. Those are going to be the things that they talk about. And then the last thing we're getting into in this episode is creating this idea of a community around your brand. And a lot of times people think, well, I'm going to start a Facebook group for my like VIP photography clients, but they spend the entire time talking about photography and their upcoming sessions, and they use it more like an email list on social media where they're just blasting out their special offers. That's not a community that your audience really wants to be a part of. But if you're creating a community around something that they actually are interested in and want to learn about, then you create kind of this micro community that could eventually grow or expand over time. So let me give you an example. Again, let's go back to the idea of a family photographer. So if you're a family photographer and you know that most of your clients are going to be children who are school age or toddlers and younger, then you could create a Facebook group or a community, whether it's, on Facebook or on an email list or in person, if you want it to be, however you want to do it, where you're teaching or learning about how to capture everyday little moments or with your kids. And this doesn't always have to be specific to photography related. A lot of times we think if it's not specific to photography, it cannot apply to my business. And that's just not true. If you are a family photographer and your clientele has all young children, you can absolutely create a space and a community around motherhood. And you can start it off as talking about how to take better photos of your kids or how to really remember and capture these moments. And you could talk about things like writing down the funny things that they say or taking videos of these little moments and how to compile those videos into something creative, or how to take the photos off their phone and turn them into little coffee table books or little mini scrapbooks or mini photo albums, or how to print and display photos, or topics around the safety of sharing photos of your kids online and online safety around those things. Like there's so many topics that could get into that you've now created this group around your brand, but setting yourself up as a brand that is about more than just those one-off photo shoots that they book or those seasonal photo shoots that they book. You're now creating a community. And there is a shift in our society where people want to be part of communities. We are done being isolated. We're done being part of the masses. We want to find these little pockets of people that we relate to, that we connect to, that we have something in common with. And if you can facilitate those little pockets of community for people, then it's just going to help elevate your brand to a whole other level, because then you become something bigger than just the girl with the camera. So hopefully these give you some ideas of how to take your marketing into 2026 and really elevate it. And I think the key thing here is that we're seeing themes where, like I said just a minute ago, people want to feel seen and heard. They want to feel like they are not just another name on your list of clients. People want to feel like they are part of something beyond just like their little insular thing. They want to be a part of community. They want connection. And if you can build those things into your business with these little aspects of things we talked about here in this podcast episode, I think you're going to see a shift in your marketing, and you're going to see it so much easier to get more clients coming in the door, because you're thinking above and beyond just the photo shoot itself. You're thinking, how can I create connections that are going to turn into something even bigger than just one photo shoot or one moment? All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Once again, if you love this episode, I would love for you to share it with someone that you think would find it valuable. It can be shared on your socials, sent directly to a friend, posted into a Facebook group. But the more you can share this, the more people we can get into this community where we're all helping each other to grow our businesses. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you back here next week, same time, same place.